Hey guys, so let's continue on with our series, the TBR Diaries. This is, I believe, part 4. Um, we're still on the top shelf. We are working our way slowly through the books on that top shelf. For those that are new to this little mini series here, I am going through the books on my physical TBR that has gotten completely out of control. Um, and just kind of talking about them and, maybe why I haven't gotten around to reading it yet, or, right, maybe I forgot I had the book. But for whatever reason, get your guys' feedback, maybe help me decide, do I move these books up or down the TBR? Um, so just as a reminder, here is my physical TBR. Yeah, it's a 5 shelf bookcase, kind of just your standard size. It does also continue around to a second smaller bookcase, but this is the bulk of the books that are just sitting here waiting to be read. So let's get into it. There are 4 books that I want to talk about today. And again, we're still on the top shelf, haven't even made it past that. We will finish out the top shelf in part 5. So the first book, there's 4 that I want to talk about right now. So the first book is Carson McCullers, The Member of the Wedding. I've talked about this one before on here. Technically, I've already read this book, but I was 12 or 13, I think. I think I was 13 maybe when I read it. And y'all, I cried so hard when I finished this book. Um, it's not a very long book, right? You can see it's pretty short. Um, but our main character in this one is a 12-year-old girl named Frankie, and her older brother is getting married. And so she's kind of encouraged by her just unbridled imagination. But she attempts to kind of be overly active in the wedding process. She even goes so far as to kind of fantasize about going on the honeymoon with her brother and his new wife. Um, it is a heart-wrenching story. It kind of focuses on the agony of that transition between childhood and adolescence. Um, and maybe that's why I had such a original kind of visceral emotional reaction to it when I was younger. But it is on my TBR because my best friend recently bought it for me, and because I've been wanting to reread it. And I want to see if now that I'm in my 40s, do I have kind of that same gut wrenching reaction to it that I did when I was the same age as the main character and could identify with some of what she was going through. Um, yeah, so that's the first book. I mean, off to a good start. All right, the next book I want to talk about is The Paper Girl of Paris, and that's by Jordan Taylor. This was another book that my bestest friend in the whole wide world sent to me. She's basically my book dealer. She keeps me in books and spoils me rotten with them. And just like any addict, I keep coming back for more. So yeah, so this was one of the good books that she bought me. I believe I got the recommendation for this book from a video I posted where I was asking for, I think this one came from the books that will make me cry. Because I mean, who doesn't want a book that's going to make them cry? So I think that's where this one came from. But this story follows 2 different people through time. So we get a modern story and a story in the past. In the modern timeline, we are following a 16-year-old named Alice who inherits a Parisian apartment, right? An apartment in Paris that was, I guess, it sounds like it was being kind of hidden from her family. And so as she's kind of digging through the past and like learning why this apartment was hidden and all that kind of stuff, she realizes that there are some family secrets that people don't want to talk about. And then our past timeline is Adeline, follows Adeline, and this is a young woman who wants to take some action, but she's not quite sure what, after the Nazis invade France. So, what do those two stories have in common? Who knows? That's what the book is going to be about, I assume. So yeah, it sounds like a really good story. Right. There's a little bit of romance in there. Hopefully it's going to make me cry when I get around to it. So I've been kind of saving this one for when I feel like I want a good cry. The next book I want to talk about is The Lying Game, and this is by Ruth Ware. I don't really know anything about this book. I think it's a thriller. Sounds like a thriller. But I got this book I like the whole blind date with the book boxes. And there is a small business that I found through TikTok shop called Lily Paper's Library. And she does a version of a blind date with a book box that's called Roll for Reading. And you can go look her up. I'll tag her down in the comments. But basically, it's kind of like a D20 dice system. So it appeals to the nerd in me as well as the bibliophile, and it's all kind of random, right? The treats that you get, the book that you get, the genre of the book, all of that is randomly kind of done through the roll of a dice. Anyway, so this was one of the books that I got from her. It is about a group of 4 best friends that went to boarding school together, and they used to play this game called the Lying Game, where they basically lied at all different levels of seriousness, right? So something that could be very minor up to things that could be very serious. There were a lot of rules, and it was very complicated rules. And one of those was including that this group of 4 girls never lie to each other, right? They lie to everybody else, but never to each other. And it sounds like something's going to happen, right? Somebody's going to probably die. It looks like it might jump back and forth in time, right? Something happens as adults, and then here's the story of what actually happened when they were kids that's now coming to light. That's kind of what it sounds like to me. Just haven't been in the mood for a thriller lately, so that's why I haven't picked this one up. I've kind of been on a big romance kick, so that's why that one is still sitting on the shelf. All right, and the last book I want to talk about is The Ever King, and that's by L.J. Andrews. I've seen good reviews for this. This was a book that I got in my book advent calendar that I got from the same company, Lily Paper's Library. If you have never done a book advent calendar before, I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. And hers you have to pre-order by like November. So yeah, definitely do it. But this was one of the books I got in my advent calendar from her. And then this follows the story of Eric, who is the king of the Ever Kingdom. His father was killed and he was trapped beneath the waves, basically making him a prisoner in his own realm. Somehow he has the opportunity to kidnap the man's daughter who did this to him. And so that's what this story focuses on, is kind of their relationship. And that's about all I know about this one. Yeah, just haven't gotten around to it. Only reason why it's there. So yeah, look forward to part 5. Part 5? Yeah, part 5, because this was part 4. continuing on, and we will finish out the top shelf in the next episode.